Hello and welcome to day 102 of Dungeon 23. Now, I've read a comment, actually a few comments, about people wanting to explain what Dungeon 23 is at the beginning of the video, which, I mean, it's weird that you're starting with day 102 and not day 1, but anyway, so Dungeon 23 is a challenge for dungeon masters, people who run games of Dungeons and Dragons, to make a mega dungeon that is 12 floors deep or high, depending on how you want to build it. Basically 12 levels, and there are roughly 30 floors per level. The idea is that you make a room every day for a year, essentially. And then at the end of it, you have a 12 level dungeon with 365 rooms. It's a lot, but making one room a day isn't that difficult. I'm kind of going about it in a different way than most other people. Other people seem to have I haven't looked at too much content from other people doing the challenge. The way I've been basically doing it is that we're making a room that is, for the most part, isolated from the rest of the dungeon, but not entirely. And it has a weird, wacky, goofy, interesting, funny, just a weird, random puzzle, combat encounter, gag, magic item, trap, just any weird idea that kind of goes into like the whole pulp gonzo, wacky, surrealist side of D&D, where you could find a crashed spaceship in the magical kingdom, that kind of stuff. And I want to lean heavy into that high fantasy nonsense. But that's basically what the challenge is. Now, today, what we're going to be doing is, I've already, of course, made the room, and this is our room here. For the spider pattern I might just continue up a little bit, but then just make all of it go down here. Because if I move all that stuff, then it's just going to become out of sync, out of line, and it's going to drive me crazy. Even more so than just it being lopsided. But, with all that annoyingness out of the way, this room, it has a ghost floating around the room. It's just a regular ghost, DC4, not DC4, but CR4 ghost. It can possess. It has its necrotic touch. It's dangerous. But of course, it's susceptible to being turned and all that stuff. And what's in this room is a thing called a ghost emitter, a magic item that the wizard who built this dungeon made to summon ghosts. The way it works is, well, first of all, it only has a 12 AC and 34 HP, so you could come in here and smash it pretty easily, all things considered. Now, if the emitter is active, and on initiative count 20, roll a d12. On a 1, if there is no ghost within 60 feet of it, 1 will be summoned. Ghosts summoned this way cannot leave the 60-foot radius, lest they fall back into the Shadowfell, unless they possess another creature. So that's a whole lot of stuff there, so let's break that down. So, unless you break the emitter, or destroy it, or deactivate it with like an Arcana check, which I didn't put one for deactivating it, so let's just do that real quick. Let's see here. Disable slash. And let's make this 17. So it's difficult but not impossible to do. These are some pretty challenging DCs because they're both really, really good at what they do. Or for what they do. So, going back to like how it functions. Basically, is the emitter active? Yes, then continue. Now, on initiative count 20 is basically the layer action of the, well, kind of the ghost, really, but just the room is the layer action. It's always initiative count 20. Roll a 12 on a 1. If there is no ghost in the room, then 1 spawns. 1 is summoned, and the party has to deal with it. Now, obviously, the way you get around this is by destroying the emitter, finding a way of not killing the ghost and keeping it contained or trapped or whatever, or because it can't leave the range of the emitter, just run out of the room, or, deactivate it. Now, the ghost cannot leave that radius, otherwise it'll just fade back into the Shadowfell, and then basically has to roll initiative again, or not initiative, but on initiative 20 has to roll the d12, and on a 1 it does again, summon a new one, and that ghost is basically trapped here, unless it possesses someone. And it can walk around and do all the normal people things, but once that possession ends, if it's outside of the range, then it's gone. Now, the ghost does count as being within the range if it's possessing something, so if it's possessing a person and then it's not going to make that roll in initiative 20, because it's still in range, but it's technically not active. It's weird, but that's just how it is, just so it's not totally dogpiling and everyone gets possessed, because as funny as that would be, I don't want a TPK on level 4. Now, the cool things you could do with the emitter, at least that I have planned out, obviously if your players have a cool idea to do something, then you don't have to let them do it, but you should at least consider it, especially if it's like fun. The thing with the rule of cool is it doesn't mean you have to like arbitrarily change the way things function, but if something is interesting and cool and thematic and fits characters and fits the world and fits all that stuff, then a character doing something that isn't necessarily mechanical still works, because you could just make mechanics for it. They want to rewire something, we'll give them a check for it and then think about how that works. A lot of DMing is just improvisation, which I'm really good at, because honestly most of what I do DM wise is not prepared at all. A lot of it's just loose bullet points and then making things up as you go along. Anyway, so the 3 ones I have basically planned, well, 2 that I want to add later because I forgot about it. The first one, the easiest to do, is just to deactivate it without having to smash it, or to reactivate it. It's the DC 17 Arcana check to fiddle with the buttons and figure out how it works, or with Tinker's tools you can actually rewire it and fix it, and that's pretty basic. Now with the DC 19 Arcana or Tinker's, this doesn't necessarily have to be these ones, but just what is expected and the estimate DC for what this kind of outcome would be, and that is, you could basically make it to, once you make that check, it sends out a powerful, basically, radius of 60 feet that destroys undead. It does 8d8 radiant damage. If they fail a DC 16 con save, or half as much. That should be enough to kill most lower undead, like zombies and skeletons that are in the dungeon. Because, if you haven't watched before, lots of skeletons and lots of zombies, because I like skeletons. I think they're fun, goofy little guys. And zombies are a more challenging version of that, because they don't go down easy. Now it's basically a anti-zombie fireball, but it's centered on the emitter, obviously, because it's out of a radius. But it also destroys the emitter. It's busted. You can't use it anymore. Maybe you could try to repair it with maybe that power gem you got from the 1st or 3rd level, because you kept one, or something like that. Just a lot of it is improvising, as I've said. I can't plan for everything. It doesn't always work like that. But you could basically make a destroy a bunch of undead button. You just have to, deactivate it, then work on it. But they don't necessarily know that. With a DC check, they could investigate it and figure out that they may be something they could do with a good Arcana check. But that's just how it works. And the final one is, with the harder one of 22, you can basically rewire it to summon a ghost that is allied to you for 10 minutes. You have a ghost that will obey you. It's basically like a conjured creature. It's loyal. It treats you like a friend. It's all that stuff. Gives information, all that stuff. For 10 minutes before it sinks back into the Shadowfell. And as with the other one, it's just busts the emitter. You can't use it anymore unless you have to repair it with, again, some other things that maybe are deeper in the dungeon. Maybe it's the power crystals, all that crap that we've established in previous episodes. Now, if you don't know too much about D&D lore, you don't know what the Shadowfell is. The Shadowfell is to undead what the Feywild is to Fey, or what the Nine Hells and the Abyss and I think it's Sienna are to fiends, or it's basically the creature type plane of undead, as like celestials have the plane of positive energy, and well, actually, it's not good. Like Mount Celestia in the Forgotten Realms. Basically, when you banish an undead somewhere, they go to the Shadowfell, just as a Fey is banished back to the Feywilds. It's like a mirror to the Feywilds too. It's all grim, dark, and depressing. There's ghosts and zombies and skeletons and werewolves and all the like darker, undead, negative energy stuff is there. It's all not necessarily evil, because like the Feywilds also have stuff that's evil, but it's more evil because Wizards of the Coast didn't put the effort into making good or neutral undead as much, except for ghosts, but that's more so because like they were a person beforehand, and people tend to be neutral. Anyway, with all that out of the way, this is basically it. I put this room here instead of putting one here because I have to figure out what I want to put here. Probably like 2 rooms here, like one here, then one here, then one there. I don't know. This whole thing is kind of sketchy, so we'll play it by ear. But with that said, this has been day 102. Thanks for watching or listening if you're just listening. This episode was an absolute pain to make, mainly because I spent the past 3 hours trying to fix my internet. And it worked for a bit, but then it busted again. So now I'm back on my mobile hotspot, which also was busted before. So, I don't know. Things are going to be complicated. Hopefully it doesn't impede uploading too much. So, it'd really help if you liked, commented, subscribed, all that stuff. And I apologize for the poor quality. It's not going to get any better.